Today, in our hot seat, we've got Elizabeth Compton, the CEO of LanguageLoop. Good to have you here.
Hello, greetings from Melbourne.
Greetings from Prague. If you're ready, let's do this.
Great, let's get into it.
Welcome to C-Suite Hot Seat, the show where we put C-level executives from language service providers of all sizes in the hot seat. We will ask tough questions and get inspired answers. Our hosts today are Sarah Hickey, VP of Research, and Marek Jakubik, Localization Advisor at Nimdzi Insights.
In one sentence, please tell us, what does LanguageLoop do? What's unique about it?
I guess we help our clients engage and connect with their customers or their patients in any language, anytime, any channel, anywhere. So here in Australia, we cover 190 plus languages, including 34 Indigenous languages, Braille and Australian Sign Language. So that full customer journey, however, our clients want to interact with their own clients or patients, we assist through multilingual communications and, like I said, across any channel.
What was the first career you dreamed of having as a kid?
I did want to be a pilot very early on. I love travel, and even growing up in Australia when it was just long drives up the highway. As you know, our geography is very far and wide, and so I wanted to be a pilot. But then when I got to about year 11, I discovered that my physics and chemistry wasn't quite as great as I thought it was, and not quite at the level I needed to become a pilot. But I took lessons, and I certainly gave it a good shot, but I changed course pretty quickly when I realized, that my physics wasn't where it needed to be.
When you're not working, how do you like to spend your time?
When I'm not working, I love the beach. So being from Australia, I spent some of my young years living in Sydney. And as you probably know, Sydney has some pretty amazing beaches. So I spent pretty much every weekend at the beach. And so it's a really place that I can relax, clear the head. I've got 2 children, but even if I'm with my kids on the beach, it's just a beautiful place to relax and really get away from it. You know, as you would know, being the CEO, there's a huge amount of pressure and a huge amount of decision making. So I just let the freedom of the sea. So whether I'm swimming or just lying on the beach reading a book or sea kayaking, whatever it may be, that's the place I like to go.
If you were given the chance to visit 3 different countries right now, which ones would you choose and why?
Well, this is a cruel question, Marek, because we are in our 6th lockdown at the moment. So I've lived in the States for a year, but never been to Central and South America. So to be honest, I don't have any 2 particular countries there, but any 2. I could throw a dart at a map of Central South America and I would go there. And the 3rd country would be France. I'm afraid to say, I know it's a bit cliched, but I absolutely love Paris. And even in the depths of this lockdown, I have just booked a ticket to Paris in June next year, being very optimistic, hopefully that we're hoping that we're out of this lockdown. I just adore Paris. I've spent quite a lot of time there. So I'm afraid to say France would be the third on the list. So 2 new and 1 something that's more familiar.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
You know, over the years, sort of in the workforce for 25 years, I've been given so much different advice on different areas that have all been incredibly helpful. But I think if I think of advice that I've found specifically useful, it's around people and how you treat your staff, your colleagues, your peers, and how you, I guess, create and cultivate an amazing culture and focus on that, and the rest will take care of itself. And I think it goes without saying, you still need to have, a solid strategy. But I do think to that, is it Steve Jobs, I think he said something around, and I'm paraphrasing, about, hire the brightest people and the best people and get out of their way. I think I'm mixing 2 different quotes there, but it really is that advice of, and I guess that it is, naturally a part of who I am as well, that I want to make sure that I've got an amazing team and culture and people are treated really well, and a light is shone on them to really prosper. And I see that as part of my role as the CEO, to make sure that I do hire the best possible people that I can, and then really get out of their way and let them do their jobs. And my job is to make sure they've got the resources to be able to deliver.
I feel like we've already gotten to know you a little bit better now, which is great. So now we can really get into the weeds of things. So what was your first breakthrough in your career? Do you recall, was there a specific moment or a time in your career that stands out to you?
I think it was when I got to a point of being a senior manager, and I think seeing peers who had gone to the next step. And I'm thinking of a particular friend who is now a director of many different ASX listed, so on the Australian Stock Exchange listed companies, and thinking, wow, look what she's doing. I think it is so important to, especially as women, to see examples of success at the highest levels. And although I'd seen other, women leaders in Australia and overseas, I think it's very different when you actually see a peer who's been incredibly successful and having those examples of peers, really climbing the ladder. So when I started interacting and reporting to a CEO and attending board meetings, it's all secret and you don't quite know what goes on in a boardroom and at CEO executive level. And as you climb and you have more and more exposure at higher levels, I think I really started to gain my confidence, and I knew that I was good at what I was doing. And I knew once I got in and was exposed to boards and exposed at the CEO executive level, I thought, I think I can actually add value, and I think I can probably do it better than some of the people that I'm seeing. So I guess it was that combination of climbing the ladder myself, being a part of the boardroom discussion and seeing a particular friend who I'm thinking of being really successful and talking to her and thinking, wow, I think I can really go further in my career.
Aside from profitability, as a CEO, you, of course, look at making your business profitable. But what are the other three main things that you spend your time on?
Strategy and strategic thinking, and where do we want to move and where are the opportunities. But probably, I spend a lot of time talking with my executive team and seeing where they're at and how they are traveling. And, therefore working with the rest of the organisation and also our clients. I do like to spend time on client accounts or trying to, business development and often reaching out, especially here in Australia. I'll sometimes be reaching out to CEOs, and it helps with the title of a CEO if I'm reaching out to another CEO as opposed to my sales team. And so I do like to assist in that way as well and build the business. And one of my favorite things is being in front of clients. So spending time, talking to clients. And like I said, other than that, with staff and with our language professionals as well, we have 3,000 interpreters and translators.
Wow.
So I always make it a point that I talk at every single induction. So every month we induct new interpreters and translators into the business. So I do make a point that I, spend at least the first 5 minutes of the induction that our recruitment lead, he manages that process. But I always like to say hello and hear the stories of where they're from and how they ended up as an interpreter or translator.
Have you ever been in sales before in your career?
No, I haven't been in sales before. And it's funny because I'm more on the introverted side, but I actually really enjoy the sales process. I love going into, and I've been into sort of pitches and through the RFP process. If you're invited for a presentation, I actually really love that process, which is very strange. I didn't think I would. And it's kind of probably one of the things I've learned about myself as a CEO in this role. And it's probably the team dynamic. I love working internally with the team to develop the pitch, to work out and think about the client and how we can solve their problems and how we can position ourselves. Of course, when you actually win a tender, that's the most fantastic feeling. We've got a bell in our office. We ring that bell every time we have a big success, and it just builds such great camaraderie as well.
What was the biggest challenge you ever had to overcome?
I don't know. Probably the biggest challenge for me is just overcoming your own fears and putting yourself out there and knowing that you can do it. And I think also just taking on, what we call the big boys or just, putting yourself out there and taking it on and bringing yourself to a position where you put yourself forward. So I don't know, in business, of course, and life, there are challenges every single day that you have to overcome.
Was there any particular failure or mistake, and what did you learn from it as well?
funny, I think I was reading the Harvard Business Review article the other day, and it's the top 5 mistakes that CEOs make. And sure enough, one was not getting the right people in the right seats early enough and waiting too long. So I probably made that mistake. Once you get the right people in, that frees up so much of your own time to then focus on that vision and strategy and people and clients.
What does success mean to you? Because I feel like that can mean something very different for every person individually and for every leader as well.
Success for me is, I guess, making sure we've got a successful organization and we're delivering on our mission, and we've got an amazing organization in that we're a really interesting, I guess a lot of language services companies are, but that balance and combination of purpose, that we're also here to be sustainable and deliver a profit. We recently just did our staff survey, and we got some fantastic results and really high results around, do you feel aligned and do you understand the mission of the organisation? It's sort of one of those typical questions. And do you understand your role in delivering on that mission? And we got incredibly high scores. And we also, for clients, do the Net Promoter Score. And so we get really high scores on our Net Promoter Score from clients and from language professionals. So to me, that's success.
Do you have a pet peeve when it comes to clients?
There is no particular pet peeve, because I've absolutely found that whatever a client is asking of you, in the end, it makes you a better organization.
What advice would you give to young entrepreneurs starting their own business in the language industry today?
I think around the world, there is just a huge number of language services providers. Some are more holistic, some niche, some have very particular technologies, but you very much have to know what problem it is that you are solving. How are you making your service delivery frictionless, or what is the differentiator? And I guess, again, making sure you've got the right people to then develop it and bring it to market. But don't just replicate what's already out there, because I think it's a very cluttered market. What is it about you that's going to help them either drive revenue or solve a problem? You really have to think of it from the customer's perspective.
We would like to thank you for joining us in the hot seat. And I hope you didn't sweat too much. And,
no, I look forward to the day I sweat. It's freezing outside here in Melbourne. So, no, but thank you. It was great. I really enjoyed talking with you. It was great to meet you, Marek, and good to see you again, Sarah.
You too.
If anyone feels like letting off some steam and you are part of the C-suite at a company in the language services industry, sign up with us if you dare to sit in our hot seat.
And for the viewers at home, this was it for today, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and look out for our next episode that will be published as a video on MultiLingual TV and as a podcast on the Nimdzi website. We'll see you there.